1. Ever since we moved into our new, old house my father bought, I was in 4th grade. It started almost immediately. When I went to sleep, I heard footsteps in the hallway. I heard my father snoring in his room, and my sister turning in her bed with metal bed frame in her room. The footsteps always stopped right outside my doorway. Then something started to happen in the daytime. I was alone with our family dog in the house. I was always scared, and so was our dog. I heard strange banging noises in different rooms, and our dog went crazy. It got worse the more scared I became. During days, I would yell in our house that this was my home, and whoever it was to go away. But during the night, the entity got closer every night. It didn't stop anymore in front of my doorway. It started to step in my room, then step in front of my bed, then sit on my bed. The final day I was home alone again with our dog. I was shaking in the living room, on the couch, with a knife, our dog right beside me, growling and staring at the hallway. Then I heard this loud bang, like a cabinet falling or something. Our dog went absolutely crazy, and I took the kitchen knife and went screaming about how I'm not afraid to search out the cause of these noises. But nothing had fallen. That night, I was glued to the hallway while laying in bed. I was panicking when I heard the footsteps. They got closer and closer like always. I was shaking and had trouble breathing. The thing sat on my bed next to me, but then it crouched over, and I felt hot breathing on my neck. My eyes were closed, and I thought that this was it. I was going to die. Suddenly it said my freaking name gently and hushingly. I let out the biggest scream ever and jumped up and ran straight to my sister's room, hysterically crying. She woke up and asked what happened, and I just cried and stuttered that the man said my name. She asked what man, and I screamed, "The man that comes to my room every night." After that, some days later, my dad hit me, and I moved in with my mother. I lived there for a few years and moved back to my dad's. My sister was living on her own now. I moved into her old room. Even though I was now 14, I was too scared to sleep in my old room. I slept with my door closed, but still every night I heard the same dreadful footsteps in the hallway. A few months went by, and I was at my sister's place visiting. Old stuff was brought up, and my sister asked me did I remember the man I told her about when I was 10. I said that I never forgot and asked why she asked. She told me that on that night, when I ran into her room crying and told her sobbing about the man, she acted brave for me, but when I told her, her blood ran cold. She told me that every freaking night she heard the same footsteps for months. She just thought it was me. When I moved to my mom's apartment, she heard, every night, those footsteps wandering down the hallway. That's when she realized it wasn't me. I lived in the house, just me and my father, for 4 years. Every time I was alone, didn't matter if it was day or night. I heard it walk around the house. Sometimes when I sat on the couch watching a movie, my father's door would open behind me, and it walked from the room to stand behind my back. Sometimes it would put his hand on my shoulder, I think. I would feel it stand behind me and then feel this warm tinkling sensation on my shoulder in the shape of a palm. The man didn't come to my sister's old room. I would stand in front of the doorway, but never step in the room. It was like the only room in the whole house out of his reach. The man has done something to everyone who has come to our house. Middle of the day, it touched my grandma's shoulder, would yank everyone's feet who had fallen asleep on the couch, would hit walls or just wander around the house. I found it kinda amusing that people who didn't believe in ghosts would be scared shitless, and started to believe after spending some time in our house. before I moved back to my mom's place at 16 years old. I wasn't scared of it anymore. It didn't hurt me or anything like that. And who knows, maybe it was just checking up on me that I was all right when I was a child. I'm 20 years old now and live in a different city. My dad lives in the house by himself now, but every time I visit him, I just know that the man is still there. If there would be a way to get him from my father's home to my place, I would do it. I kind of miss having him around. 2. To start this off, I'm 21 and a single mom to a beautiful 9-month-old. I live in a granny flat at the back of my parents' property. The previous tenants were the previous owner's daughter and 2 granddaughters. Apparently the daughter, a single mom, often had fleeting relationships that would move in and out of the flat as well. When I moved in last year, September, I was still pregnant. The very first night something watched me while I slept. I couldn't see it, but I could feel its presence. My cat wouldn't stop staring in the direction of the door as well. Now, I didn't know this, but there's a motion sensor light in one of the top corners of my room, facing the door. The reason I didn't know this is because it would turn on and stay on, even when neither I nor my cat were moving. This happened again the next afternoon, and I asked my mom to bless the house, as that was normally something we'd do when we'd move into a new house or weird stuff happens. After my mom blessed my place, things were fine again, until October, when I started seeing shadow people in my parents' house. I could see and feel them watching me, and I felt they were angry that I ignored them. I don't know how I got to that conclusion, but it just felt that way. After my daughter was born, my mother blessed the flat again, and everything felt fine again. Whenever anyone comes into my flat, they say that they feel like they are not alone, that something is watching them, and that it is angry. This all brings me to the past 3 months, when my baby started with what we thought was sleep regression. She would wake up screaming bloody murder like she was hurt, and wouldn't fall back asleep unless I held her, and went to go sleep on the couch in the TV room with her. I'm at this point exhausted, frustrated, and I often find myself getting extremely angry, to the point where I walk away and just have to scream somewhere, which I can't help but feel ashamed about. Now, I recently started dating again, and my boyfriend comes to sleep over on the weekends. He has an amazing relationship with my daughter and treats her like his own. When he is over, it feels like the thing that's in my flat is somewhat appeased. My daughter doesn't wake up at all, and the very night that my boyfriend leaves, she's a scream machine again. She hasn't known him for long at all, and isn't very attached to him either, so that strikes out the possibility of missing him. As well as the fact that this happens Sunday to Thursday every night. My mom and I theorize that the entity in my house was created by some residual energy from the previous single mom. I heard there's a name for that kind of entity, but I can't remember what the name of it is. Other things I've experienced are something calling my nickname when I go looking. Nobody is there. Foul smells. Things just go missing and reappear in weird places, mostly religious stuff. Knocks all over the place. I forgot to add that when I pick my daughter up from her cot, which is right next to my bed, she starts looking around frantically and hyperventilates for minutes after. Please let me know if you've experienced anything like this, and what I can do without actually contacting whatever is in my place. Sincerely a drained, tired mom. 3. So basically, I moved into my apartment around 2 weeks ago, and from the first day, I had a bad feeling. For context, I have always been receptive to weird stuff. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a feeling that I know when something is wrong with a place. I moved into my apartment with the help of my family, and when I spent my first night in it, I had a really, really bad feeling, almost to the point where I felt physically ill. The next morning, my legs were covered in bruises, when I know I didn't do anything to have them bruised, but I do bruise easily, so I'm not really convinced that it's related. Recently, though, I've been watching a lot of things around horror, and I just thought that I was paranoid and kind of brushed off the feeling I had. But things started to disappear and reappear in a different place. For example, a mug that I was 100% sure was still on my table disappeared, and I found it in the kitchen, when I know I hadn't moved it while I was in the bathroom. But again, I just thought I was distracted and left it at that. Then things started to fall. Just random objects falling to the ground, but again, I just convinced myself that it wasn't a big deal. In the day, I feel generally good. Just sometimes I'd feel like someone was watching me, but when I turn around, there would be nothing. So again, I just thought I was paranoid. But at night, I feel constantly like I'm being watched. When I say constantly, I really mean all the time. But since then, I just got used to the feeling, because when I check every room of my apartment, there's nothing. I said earlier that I was kind of receptive to this stuff. I believe in it, but not too much. I don't know how to say it, but I just feel like this thing is not evil. Like it doesn't want to hurt me, or whatever. It's just watching me. I haven't told anyone about it because no one that I know really believes in this type of thing. And since I felt that it didn't want to hurt me, I just didn't see the point, and I don't want my family thinking I'm crazy. The reason I'm sharing this post is because for the last 2 days my feelings have changed. I'm not sure anymore that this thing does not want to hurt me. The worst would be last night. For context, I have insomnia, so most nights I fall asleep really late after playing games on my computer or watching videos, and last night, while I was trying to fall asleep, I had the same feeling I had the first night, but somehow worse. I don't know why, but instinctively I looked up around, and I'm almost sure that I saw the silhouette of a woman that disappeared as soon as I saw it. At that point, I'm kind of scared, but I just put that to the fact that it was a really draining day and that I was just really tired. So again, I close my eyes and try to fall asleep. And in my head, I just have this image of a woman who is trying to grab my feet. And right when I had this feeling, I felt my left foot being enveloped by electricity. It wasn't the feeling of a hand, but more like a concentration of electricity around my feet. By that time, I'm really scared, so I kick my blanket and look up to see my feet, and again, I'm like 98% sure that I saw the same silhouette. But this time, it was like it was trying to hide behind my bed. Then it disappeared, but I saw it. I know I saw it. Then a bag of Burger King that I ate from the night before got knocked off the table. And then nothing. I fell asleep about 1 hour later that night because I was really tired, even though I was scared. So here I am. I honestly have no idea what to do, and I'm kind of scared. Can someone give me advice, please? 4. When I was in high school, about 15 years ago, a group of friends and I were hanging out at our friend Dale's house. For some backstory, we lived way out in the country, also technically part of Appalachia, and the kind of middle of nowhere where the nearest neighbors are a few miles up the road. Dale happened to have a cave near his property that we like to explore and be dumb teenagers in. To get to the cave, you had to walk roughly a mile through dense woods and cross a big field. We had yet to find the end of the cave system, despite exploring for hours at a time, multiple times. One day we had spent the better part of the afternoon exploring the caves, and it had gotten dark by the time we emerged. We already had flashlights, so that was no big deal. My memory is a little fuzzy on the exact details, but for some reason, our friend Sam decided to go back to the house a little earlier. I want to say we had ordered pizza or something, and he went to meet the driver. The rest of us started making our way back through the woods to Dale's house, when we started hearing voices in the woods. We were asking each other if we heard that and where it came from, but we each had a different direction of where we thought it was coming from. It was a childlike voice, and it sounded like talking or whispering, but you couldn't make out what was being said. At this point, we thought one of our friends was messing with us, and we started to talk back to it. It sounded like a child giggling, and then our flashlights started to flicker and die. We had one dim light left to get the rest of the way back. We were all thoroughly freaked out, prank or not, and hightailed it back to the house, adrenaline pumping. We all got in the house, shut the door, and I felt a sense of safety for a split second before the crucifix on the wall literally came off the wall and broke on the floor. It literally seems like something out of a bad horror movie, but we all watched it legitimately come off the wall and crash to the ground with no apparent reason. Before that moment, I hadn't been convinced it wasn't our other friend Sam that was messing with us, even though he really wasn't the type. We all started word-vomiting at Sam trying to explain what just happened, and questioned if he had something to do with it, but he genuinely seemed freaked out and confused. He actually said that on his way back to the house earlier, he kept hearing weird things and seeing lights in the woods, and he thought it was us trying to play a prank on him. I don't know what it was. Maybe our friend is a great actor, but I honestly don't think it was a prank. The feeling I got in the woods, like every hair was standing on end, goosebumps on my goosebumps, and every fiber of my being screaming to run. I have never felt like that again, and never want to. 5. So this happened earlier today, and it's kinda driving me nuts. I feel really silly for talking about it, and for how I reacted, so I wanted to hear other people's opinions. For context, I do believe in the paranormal, but I consider myself picky on what I see as true or real. So this didn't really change any kind of opinion I had on the paranormal. What it did change for me was how I may or may not be impacted by it. My best friend and I were catching up after a long while of not seeing each other, and they were telling me about a recent job at a location that creeped them out. I suggested that we drive past and see if I get the same vibe. Needless to say, I did. My best friend then went on to tell me that, when on his lunch while working there, he had the urge to turn up the volume of his music to max and ignore the building so he wasn't as creeped out. This was the weird part. As soon as he said as such, I immediately responded, "I wouldn't do that," in response to him blocking out sound. Thing is, I didn't realize I said it until afterward, which is where I kinda panicked and said, "I don't know why I said that." And it's true, I've got zero clue why I said that. What my friend said was very casual, and they just mentioned it on the side. It wasn't the subject of our conversation. But my reaction was so unlike me because it was very blunt and flat, and I am a very loud and emotional person. It came out of me before I even realized what I was saying. I tend to speak on the fly, but I usually know what I'm responding to or what I'm responding with, even when I don't think about it beforehand. This moment of me just blurting it out was just so odd, because I've never done that before. And for the rest of the night, that reaction I had really affected my friend and I. I had never been able to depict to strangers just how uncomfortable the experience made us. Putting it down in words doesn't give it all justice. Both of us knew that it came out without my saying it whatsoever, but I can't stop thinking about that awful gut feeling we both had when we realized what I'd said and done. Both of us agree that if truly paranormal, it was a warning. Throughout my life, I've always felt something in regards to the paranormal. Nothing special. I just call them gut feelings. But this experience from today just hit different for some reason. I don't know if it's as crazy as I'm making it out to be, but I can't stop thinking about it. It was just so bizarre. I'd love to know other people's opinions, or if any of you have experienced something similar. I just want to know if I'm being silly, or if it really was as strange as we felt like it was. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Paranormal Stories, episode 350, and thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do poke the like button and share the video around with friends and family, both living and dead. And if you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, then you can support me through my Patreon, which is linked in the description. You can do that for as little as $1 a month, or more if you'd like to. You'll also find a link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store, where you can get yourself some amazing Hellfreezer merchandise just in time for Christmas. Possibly. I have no idea what the delivery times are like this time of year, so if you do, hopefully Christmas time. And you can also make donations during streams or videos like this one. And while you don't have to do so, I very much appreciate it, and it's been helping me out a lot. Okay. Now, do I have any shout-outs or anything today? Let me check to see. I do not have any shout-outs. Okay, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is... And this one comes thanks to the Compa Pepe, who was in the chat when I live-streamed the recording of this. And that is, what is your favorite ice cream topping? Now, for me, I am a simple and humble man. My topping for ice cream is, generally speaking, more ice cream. But I understand some of you folks are a bit fancier than I am, so what's your favorite? Do you like chocolate sauce, caramel? Do you like to put sprinkles on top? Maybe you like chocolate chips or bits of fudge. I've even heard weird mystical tales of people who like little bits of bacon on ice cream. Well, I think so. I know people put on donuts. Whatever it may be, why don't you let me know what it is in a comment below, and I look forward to reading your answers. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.